Hi folks, how are you doing? It is now about 11 o'clock on the 25th day of July 2024. My pending date with the knife is drawing ever closer. I will let you guys know how that goes afterwards. Didn't make a video yesterday. I am suffering from a toothache, which means I have to take, because doctors would rather give you opioids than antibiotics. Antibiotics are more carefully regulated by the medical industry than they'll give you opioids out the fucking ass, but they don't want to give you a goddamn antibiotic to take care of an infection. So, without an act of Congress, because that's their special fucking secret weapon. That's what they do. They, put all the shit together and they put all the fucking symptoms into an iPad, and the iPad says, give them antibiotics. There you go. And so doctors make $400,000 a year for that. But that's their secret weapon. They don't want it to go away. So I just have to take aspirin and ibuprofen, and both of them fuck up my INR. And so right now my blood is as thin as water. And I have to go outside and do a bunch of lawn work today. And I got to go to the pharmacy, which sucks because I don't have a way to get there. So, thus is life. That's why I didn't make a video yesterday. It's been about 2 days I've been dealing with this shit now. So, there we have it. Today we're going to talk about two pieces of news. We're going to talk about two world leaders. A guy by the name of Benjamin Netanyahu and a guy by the name of Nicolas Maduro. Two very different fucking reactions from the Americans towards these individuals. One is a ruthless fucking dictator, passes laws in his own country against protesting against a war of choice against a people who are basically unarmed, living in the world's largest open-air ghetto, concentration camp. And the other, that's the one we love and give 5-minute standing ovations for. The other is a socialist leader who does the best he can for his country and thinks, oddly enough, that whatever comes out of the fucking land that is owned by the people, the profits of it should be shared by the people. Oh my God. No, big business should get it all. Don't you understand? And so for that, we hate him. And he's got an election coming up. And of course, all they're doing right now is trying to figure out new and creative ways to say, Nicolas Maduro is going to steal the election. Of course, that's what they always say. Hillary Clinton said that about Iran, said that about Russia, said that about Venezuela. And of course, in every single case, when she said it was clearly a stolen election, turns out later she had to admit, okay, it wasn't a stolen election. I despise Hillary Clinton. I despise her. I despise anybody who fucking followed her, who ever liked her. I despise them. I don't dislike them. I despise them. Make me fucking sick. Ever. By the same token, I have a deep disgust for the way Congress behaved yesterday when a known, proven war criminal and terrorist came before Congress and gave one of the worst, most despicable speeches ever delivered in that building. And there's been a few. There they are. Woo! 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 genocide. Woohoo! It's okay because you're Jewish. These people make me fucking sick. They make me fucking sick. They are soulless, vile human beings without a shred of moral character whatsoever. Literally cheering for somebody who wants, by the way, he said he needs faster delivery of bombs and weapons to drop on children in refugee camps. Oh, but we're saving the Palestinian lives, the civilian lives. We're being very careful. You can't kill 38,000, 39,000 fucking people, civilians, by accident. You can't. You can't. By definition, you can't do that. It's impossible. You have to have a reckless disregard for human life and for the lives of the people that you're bombing. They have to be, in essence, the target. It has to be genocide. There's no other way of looking at it. It doesn't matter. I could sit here and read you. I could go down the list of all the different fucking international organizations that have condemned this as genocide and as an attempt to depopulate Gaza so they can claim it as their own because they covet. And I choose that word very carefully. The Zionists covet what they see. And what they see is land that they can use and utilize and take for themselves. They are covetous. And that's what they are. You can extrapolate that as you will. I don't give a shit. Herat said that 128 Congress critters chose not to show up. That's good. There are 435 of them, I believe. And of course, there were extra seats, so they had to bring in people to fill the seats to make it look like there wasn't a big hole of the Congress critters because they wouldn't want to offend His Highness. I think that's what someone called him. I think that's what they said when they introduced him, His Highness. Some shit like that. You could talk about, I posted on here a thing from this dude, Kyle Kalinske. Yeah, I know, him and his fucking hair. This video here, go watch it. It's worthwhile. He's makes some good points. He mentions the fact that the Lancet study does say that there's probably about 186,000 actually dead in Gaza, based on numbers from previous genocides committed versus the recorded fatalities. We know there's lots of people missing. There's still much that needs to be cleared away in terms of rubble, buildings, schools, hospitals, churches, mosques, post offices, police departments, marketplaces, beauty salons, daycare centers, parks, water parks. They bombed water parks. This man is disgusting. He is a despicable human being. He is beyond despicable. If Netanyahu was on fire in front of me right now, I wouldn't piss on him, to put it out. I would literally laugh. The last thing he heard in life would be me laughing, maniacally. And I've never said anything that outrageous or outlandish about anybody that I've talked about in these things. He makes me sick. And it makes me sicker that many fucking U.S. Congress critters showed up. And not because he is a upstanding human being, a humanitarian, a leader of men. He's a fucking criminal. Before October the 7th, he was a criminal that they wanted to prosecute and get the fuck out of office before October 7th. There were millions of people protesting against him before October the 7th because of what he tried to do to usurp the power of the Supreme Court in Israel, so that they would have a unitary executive system where he'd be the sole quote unquote decider. The fact that many people showed up in Congress and stood there, felt they had to stand and applaud and not be the first one to sit down because they figured AIPAC and their political action committee was going to be watching the videos to see who didn't stand up, who applauded the longest, who applauded the loudest, who stood the longest. Because they would get more fucking money. And so that's how we have this horrific display. One person, her, Rashid Tlaib, attended, wore her fucking kufiya, and held up that sign. On the other side it says war criminal. And you can see her being berated by the people around her. But she sat there, to her credit. And outside the place, there were thousands protesting. There's a video up here of some of the ones protesting, being attacked by the police. One little Nazi in particular beating a girl with his bicycle. What a little punk that guy is, huh? You want to see that? I'll show you that. Why not? We got time.
At the very moment, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was receiving a rapturous ovation from members of Congress.
Hitting her in the face with a
goddamn... of protesters who...
Hitting her in the face with a goddamn wheel of the bicycle.
was receiving a rapturous ovation from members of Congress. Some of the thousands of...
What a piece of shit. This is what we do. We actually have New York City police officers come down. We have Washington police officers come down. All to fucking support a goddamn Nazi. I mean, they just recently had fucking Zelensky in there. He gave a similar kind of bullshit speech. Give me more money. Give me more money. I want more money. I want to stay in power as long as I can. 1971, the Shah of Iran, the Shah, who had coronated himself, crowned himself the King of Kings in a big ceremony, had some dude bring him in a uniform. Of course, the Shah has to wear a uniform, and he's got fucking medals and shit and sashes, and he looks all... He's all serious. And this guy comes with a pillow and the most ridiculous looking crown with these two stupid little gay ass feathers sticking out of the front of it. The most ridiculous looking shit you've ever seen in your life. And he takes it off of it, and he turns it around and places it on his head. The King of Kings. spent $650 million in 1971 dollars, while his people in half the country, they didn't have water to bathe or to cook or to drink. Most of the fucking little towns and shit, people didn't go to schools. Spent $650 million to have the party of all parties. And they invited world leaders from everywhere. And they all showed up. Well, not really. But they showed up so the King of Kings could show them a good time. To let them know that the Persian Empire was back. We're back, baby, and open for business. You know who didn't go? For one, the Queen of England. For another one, a guy by the name of Nixon. You know why they didn't go? Because they weren't about to pay fealty to the King of Kings. Nope. Not gonna fucking do it. They said, fuck you. And it was that 1971 party. They had to kick the Ayatollah out and Khomeini out, and he was exiled for a time. Because of that, they shut down any kind of discourse about it. They locked people up if they said anything bad about the fucking party, or they mentioned the fact that, you know, why would they spend $650 million at a time when we need books for kids, we need education, we need water for kids. They needed vaccines and things because kids were dying of shit that the rest of the world had already dealt with decades before. But the important thing for the Shah was he would be perceived as the King of Kings. Isn't it ironic that his behavior at that party, his hubris, was really the beginning of the downfall? Because from there, it ended up snowballing to 1979, when the Shah was out. And Iran, as we know it now, was born. Reborn, I should say. Isn't it ironic that the guy who's doing the exact same fucking thing, displaying the exact same hubris, he's going to go to fucking Congress, he's going to show everybody back at the Knesset, he's going to show all of his fucking Zionist friends back in Israel, who pulls the strings in the United States? His fucking hubris. This completely disingenuous fucking speech of his is going to be his next downfall. It's going to lead to his downfall. Because, you know, he might think of himself as the King of Kings like the Shah once did. But again, like the Shah, he wasn't. And he isn't. And he's going to come to find out very soon. Go watch his thing. Cal brings up some of the lies, a few of the lies that he talks about. Nowhere close to enough. Again, nobody in the controlled opposition will tell you the truth about this. I will. He goes, okay, what happened on October the 7th and all those civilians that were killed was awful. Fuck you, Kyle Kulinski. If you don't understand what the fuck you're talking about, don't open your goddamn mouth. The majority of the civilians killed on October 7th were not killed by Hamas. They were killed by the IDF. I've got plenty of information down there. Go look at it. Hannibal Directive and other topics, headings on the side and the right side of my page. Pull them up. Rate them. There's tons of evidence. Evidence that comes from sources like Herat's Times of Israel, Jerusalem Post, IDF, members of the Knesset. The majority of people killed on October the 7th, civilians killed, were killed by Israeli attack helicopters, firing incendiary rounds out of those big-ass fucking 50 caliber cannons they have on the side of the fucking Apache attack helicopters that we gave them, by the way. That's why all those cars were burned up. They weren't burned up by Molotov cocktails. They had bags full of Molotov cocktails. Nah. Nope. There were hundreds of cars burned. That's what incendiary rounds do to gasoline-powered fucking vehicles. Incendiary rounds and hellfire rockets fired by drones. All those cars that were destroyed, you would have thought that they would show you all the videos of people shooting fucking RPGs into all these cars or throwing Molotovs into all these cars. What? There's none. Doesn't exist. What did they control? They started snapping up all the goddamn videos and all the fucking home movies and the cell phone videos that were hitting the internet. They started snatching all those up, showing Israeli Apache attack helicopters opening fire on fucking vehicles, carrying Israelis. These are facts. He doesn't say anything about that. He also talks about the flag burning. I told you, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, the flag burning and someone going, Ali Akbar, Allah Akbar, at something, and some dude dancing around looked like Ethan from H3H3, burning a fucking American flag. What he doesn't tell you is, what Kyle doesn't tell you is, 5 will get you 10. That the people dancing around doing that and yelling Allah Akbar and lighting fire to American flags are probably Jewish. And they're not on the side of Palestine. And they did it so it would be filmed and then used to demonize people who support Palestine. Or people who just support not bombing children anymore. Okay? And all that. He also doesn't mention the fact that Netanyahu thanks America for all the fucking weapons and all the fucking shit, and of course coming there to defend them from the fucking rockets coming over from Iran. Or was it Yemen? One of the two. Or Hezbollah? Somebody. Remember that big rocket strike, and we took out a bunch of them for them. The United States and France did. Israel didn't do jack shit. Because Israel can't do jack shit, except kill fucking their own civilians and kill people who were unarmed and bomb fucking refugee camps with tents in them, with kids in them, and bomb schools. You know, they can do that pretty well. They're really good at that because they're so brave. They're so brave. And then he says, you know, thank you for all that, but it's quid pro quo because, of course, what we give you is all this intelligence. Well, thank you, BB. I appreciate you mentioning that. What he's talking about is, you know, it's Israeli fucking software that the deep state uses to spy on us every single fucking day to try to figure out who's a dissident, who isn't, to try to frame candidates for working with the Russians or whoever it is. The only intelligence I know that they had prior to a big event that they could have shared, they didn't, and that was the dancing Israelis who testified they were sent there by the Mossad to film the attacks on the Twin Towers. And that's what they did. They had the camera set up before the first plane hit the first tower. That's the intelligence they had. They knew long before. So those 3,000 people could have been out of those buildings because the Israelis knew about it before it was going to happen. Thank you, Bibi, for that. We can also thank him for the USS Liberty and the 34 U.S. sailors who lost their lives. Thank you, Bibi, for that too, Israel. Glorious, glorious Israel. Israel does nothing for us. Never has, never fucking will. They tried to sell fucking nukes to goddamn South Africa. Apartheid South Africa. Yeah. I think they did sell information to the Soviets back when the Cold War was going on. They sold fucking nuclear secrets to the Soviets as well back in the day. They're great. And of course, we can thank them for Jeffrey Epstein and his campaign, what he did on behalf of Mossad. We can thank him for that too. There's a whole lot we can thank fucking Israel for. So it's a quid pro quo. It's even, pretty much even. In fact, it's not even at all. It's disgusting. Yet, because of AIPAC, because of their political action committee, because of the fact that they are so frightened of not being reelected, of having the political action committee put $25 million against some bullshit fucking house race in Des Moines, Iowa, they got to get up there and we love you so much. I'm surprised none of them actually got down and blew him right there in the halls of Congress. I'm surprised, to be honest with you, because these people are just spineless sycophants. If they believe a single thing that came out of Benjamin Netanyahu's mouth during the entire thing. I posted this links to his actual speech, text. So you haven't got to listen to that shit in the 50,000 times they got to stand up and give him a standing ovation. Be the first one standing and the last one standing. It's like, it reminds me, long time ago, I wrote something about, when I first started writing, I wrote something about an Amway thing I had to fucking attend because I was a waiter. And these fucking mindless goons, all dressed up in their best fucking jewelry, trying to look like the cat's meow. And I was in college. This is a long time ago. And in came the grand poobah. You know, the regional manager's thing. You know, the grand poobah of fucking Amway or whatever the fuck it was. And he comes walking in and they just all stand up. I mean, just eyes as wide as they can be, like a fucking, like a crackhead's eyes, but just vacant. That's hard to, to replicate. But she's looking at me and this kind of place, this is the Jefferson Hotel, so you gotta stand there as a wait staff and just wait with your arms behind your back. She's looking at me, literally doing that. She goes, and she realizes I'm looking at her like, she goes, but he's so rich. And she looks for that moment for it to catch in my, and I'm just looking at her. She's like, and she goes on, but he's so rich. I thought I was looking at an endangered species. A part of our society that's just going to work its way out, like Klansmen, like vacuum cleaner salesmen. Little did I know. 128 of us, the Dems, didn't go. That's good. That's good. But far too many showed up. And it is despicable. The man is literally a Nazi. He is a Jewish supremacist. He thinks of us, Goyim, as cattle. And his whole speech, he kept saying, my friends, my friends, my friends. Why does someone do that? Because they don't want you to know that you feel superior to them and you're not really his friend. You know, he wants you to think that he thinks of you as my friends. You're my equals. He doesn't. And that brings us back to the fucking Shah of Iran. The hubris, the arrogance. And again, they're the same kinds of people. Now let's jump to the other side of that equation. That's a guy by the name of Maduro in Venezuela. I don't care what side of the political divide you're on. I don't care if you're a libertarian. I don't care if you're a fucking neocon. I don't care if you're a conservative. I don't care. A narco-syndicalist. I don't care. I don't care if you're one of these fake fucking communists or Trotskyites, whatever the fuck you want to call yourself. I don't care. I don't care. You know, Maduro isn't bombing children. And yet, if Maduro had shown up there, those same people screaming and yelling and wanting and offering, probably as he's walking by, slipping him little pieces of paper saying, I'll suck your dick. Meet me in the bathroom. He probably got 100 of those from grown men. Maduro shows up the same place, he's going to be pelted, attacked for being evil. Because he believes, this is what he believes that makes him so evil. The wealth of the country is owned by the people of the country. That's what makes him evil. It's not owned by BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard and Goldman Sachs and Citigroup and Exxon and fucking, Royal Dutch Shell. No, fuck you. The wealth of the country belongs to the fucking oligarchs. And you just got to look up at them. You just got to look up to them and just smile and love them as much as you possibly can. There were a lot of people in Iran who felt that way about the fucking Shah. So proud that they had leading them the King of Kings. It didn't matter that they lived in squalor. It didn't matter that he took everything. He took everything, lined his own pockets with it. His father lined his pockets with it till they kicked him the fuck out. It didn't matter. As long as the King of Kings was well respected, it made Iran look good. And so therefore they were the King of Kings, even though they were living like peasants. By the way, that's the Shah of Iran's father was a peasant. He wasn't from any kind of royal family at all. Nicolas Maduro raises his people, tries to raise his people, like his predecessor, out of fucking poverty. Does what he can for the people, runs the country for the people. And of course, for that, he is an evil dictator. They have an election coming up on Sunday. Isn't that interesting? We have ours on Tuesdays so that working class people can't get fucking there to vote. They have theirs on the weekend so working class people can vote. Isn't that interesting? But they also have receipts and paper trails with their electronic voting machines. So they don't have the black box voting trick that we have. They actually have legitimate fucking voting. But what's happening now is, and BB pointed this out to me, is a bunch of people are running around on the alt-right and the centrist left, the neoliberal left, the corporatist left, and the alt-left. And they're saying, oh my goodness, look at all the polls. All the polls are showing Maduro's going to lose in a landslide. What should we do if it doesn't work out that way? This is tried and true method. They've done it many times before in the past. The polls all say, and then they have the election. Of course, the election is a paper, pencil, and plexiglass, or it's what they have in Venezuela. And they have 635 fucking observers from all these different countries who come in and observe the fucking elections. They observe the fucking voting places. They observe the fucking counting of the ballots. They all say it's the same thing. It's a perfectly on the level, upfront election. But of course we have to say, oh my God, they're all lying. They're all on the take. By the way, Bibi Netanyahu had the audacity, had the fucking gall to tell a bunch of people in Congress, yay, we love you so much, Bibi. Yes, go Judaism. Had the gall to tell those people who were on the fucking payroll of AIPAC and the Political Action Committee, and all they got to do is support everything that Israel does, a foreign country. He had the gall to tell those people that all the protesters outside who had come from miles around, who had come from other states, some cases from across the country at their own expense, to voice their anger at his presence in our fucking Congress. He had the gall to say they were on the Iranian payroll with absolutely zero fucking evidence. He just said it to a room full of people who were on Israel's payroll, literally. But that's what's going to happen Sunday. And it always happens. They always fucking do it. And she and I were talking, so we looked up Telesur, we looked up Telesur, we looked up fucking Venezuela analysis, and here we are. Sure enough, Maduro campaign chief warns of Miami-based plot to cry election fraud, and of course foreign forces seek to interfere in Venezuelan presidential elections from Telesur. This is what we do. This is what we do. We are the straight up most fascist fucking nation on the planet. It's no wonder that we love fascists like Bibi Netanyahu. It's no wonder we love real fucking neo-Nazis from fucking Ukraine. It's no wonder. It's absolutely no wonder. We are just a straight up fascist nation. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I had been of the impression that Bibi would be gone by January. I had no idea just how fucking morally decrepit the Israeli population was. I saw protests. I saw people saying, this has got to stop. In December, in November, had no idea how decrepit the moral, how far advanced the moral rot has gotten in fucking Israel. And, I see that, and then I look and go, oh, well, 128, only 128 stayed away from the fucking thing in Congress. So apparently it's the same here. Apparently it's the same here. There's a lot of people protesting still in Israel. And, there are still people protesting all around in the country, in the United States, against what Israel's doing, calling for a ceasefire. But he just plugs right along. And now we got Kamala Harris, who I'm sure is on board, just like Biden was, just like Trump is, just like RFK Jr. is. They're all the same. They're all on board with killing as many fucking children as possible. forced displacement of fucking Palestinians, put them on a fucking boat, ship them out someplace where they can be used as migrant labor, cheap labor, for big business to make some fucking more profits. And for the covetous fucking Zionists in Israel to snatch up that fucking glorious land. And it looks like Donald Trump will be president, by the time all that happens. And he will help facilitate it, just like he helped facilitate the fucking COVID-19 psychological operation. He will help facilitate it, and his son-in-law, who has already declared there's some great beachfront property we could build some hotels on. I'm sure he will get his choice. It is, unfortunately, it's not enough to take your mind off a toothache, but it is rather goddamn depressing. But I am glad to see people out there. There's a short video showing the one with the bike, person with the bike. Interestingly enough, a guy showed up, was interviewed at that rally that I knew, kind of, back in the day when I was in Richmond. Worked at a place called Flood Zone. I ran security, and I paid his manager out, who also owned fucking the Flood Zone, every Wednesday night, because his band was the house band for $5 a ticket. A guy by the name of Dave Matthews. Dave Matthews was at that event in Washington, and good for him. Good for him. You hardly see any celebrities out there now taking a real stand for the people that need someone to take a stand for them. Instead, we've got standing ovation for a murderous Jewish supremacist. People taking a stand for him and applauding for 5 minutes straight. The kind of people that Benjamin Netanyahu looks down his nose to and thinks of as cattle. And that's us. It's a shameful moment in our history. Even Nancy Pelosi said that. It's a shameful, and if Nancy Pelosi says it, it's a shameful fucking moment in our history. With one bright spot. And only one bright spot. I'll let you know what's going on with Venezuela on Sunday. We'll keep an eye on what's going on there, but don't buy that bullshit. Don't buy the bullshit. We're just run by a lot of fucking psychopaths. Sorry. Like all the psychopaths standing around her and applauding. One bright spot. Only one. And I thank you for your time.